said, sure, be glad to. So I met with Governor Sanford, then met with Taylor, who was then headed up the Department of Commerce. And then I presented to our representative a plan to save 200 and some jobs. So he didn't want to do the legwork to save those jobs. Now, Allendale County, are y'all familiar with Allendale County?
Yes.
The poorest county in South Carolina. Their unemployment rate was over 22%. And you're talking about losing 200 jobs in that. So then that's why now, I'm a numbers guy, I'm an analyst, in that. The number says you can't win. But I've been fighting odds all my life. If you can't do that, you can't. I've been doing it all my life. So that's why I'm going to get into the race. A year ago, someone said, if Chairman Floyd does not run, would you consider running? And I said, I don't know if I want to take a bite of this apple this time or not. And as people began to, I'm going to run. In fact, I was one of the first ones that she called and said, I'm not going to run. And as others began to get in, I started getting calls all across the state asking me to run. Every SCGOP fundraiser in this state, I've been at it over the last 2 years. I've attended it. I was introduced 2 weeks ago at the Greenville County Tea Party. Dean Allen, he said, I've been across this state, this guy's been at every meeting. So it's something I've been doing anyway, at my own expense, I may add. I drove across this, I drove, I think, 1,000 miles a week for this past weekend. So looking at what can I help continue on and help build that. I'm not bashful whatsoever in when the gauntlet was tossed down, well, can you go talk, call Governor Sanford, met with him, sit down, and so forth like that. This is all about saving jobs, and that was why that I ran with that. And this is when people started asking me, I said, well, you do know that if I run for the chairmanship, that could disqualify me for running for the House, or I've been asked to run for the Senate as well. So anyway, that's why. It's all, you will find out in your life, you're going to have to give back. Okay? You'll find that out. You're going to have to give back. I served in the military and fought for freedoms. I served the textile industry fighting for jobs. That's one thing I admire about Mr. Roger Milligan. As we went with free trade, we also believe in fair trade. And I've been fighting for the smaller rural democratic counties throughout the state, and we'll continue to do that. Yeah. Well, as I said, you're talking about, I guess probably a very vital part that I left out. In 1974, when I was 26 years old, I ran for city council in the town, which was controlled by a certain family and group in that town. I was the youngest person ever to run for that office. Somebody says, but you never run for political office. I said, well, I'm right. Yeah, you're right. Well, what qualifies you? I said, I know right from wrong. And you push this annexation in this area where I'm living, and you didn't have the hearings like you should. From that, we filed grievances, and then finally a lawsuit. And we had people in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the governor they ended up with prison. We had representatives. We had a lieutenant governor that ended up being on house arrest out of this because he was supporting that. And of course, I don't know if you know this, the Speaker of the House, he's in prison now, Black in North Carolina, and so it was corrupting. So, but anyway, I said you'll find out you're going to have to give back. I've gave back through church. Okay, I was chairman CEO for Outreach for Christ, which was a non-denominational group that we tried to help people in our community And one of the things we did was we built a chapel at White Lake Prison Camp in White Lake, North Carolina, in Bladen County. And I was the one who went and helped push that to get the land. The state donated the land. We raised private funds and we built that chapel. Before churches started having prison ministers, we were doing that back in the 70s. In that side. But I've always given back, either in church, community. I've always done that. And you'll find out that you'll be doing the same thing. And I was sharing with Kelly, my wife said, what are you going to do when you retire? The way you work, the way you go. 14, 15, 16 hours a day was a normal for me. Okay? I was up early this morning looking at the financial markets in Asia and so forth, trying to understand the natural disaster in Japan, how that's going to affect our financial markets. All right, next.
Jaleesa, would you ask for Samara?
I'm Jaleesa and I'm a junior. Compare and contrast the challenges of the other GOP state chair candidates in recent.
Well, I think you need to understand the ideology of a Republican. Okay. I'm going to kind of encapsulate that real can, and then it's going to touch on a state level as well as a national level. I believe that our freedoms come from God and not the government. Okay. I believe that our sovereignty is in our souls and not the soil. And I believe that our security comes in our strength and not our weakness. And I believe that our prosperity comes from the private sector and not the public sector. And I believe that these truths are self-evident and not relative. Okay? This is all about opportunity and creating that opportunity for everyone. And hopefully you've seen that you may feel like you're disenfranchised. You may not have as much as any other people did, but you can do whatever you want to. You apply yourself in there. Now, as I mentioned, my mother would actually refuse to take any assistance. She didn't. She just refused to do that. She passed that on down to us. And the ideology, you know, if you apply yourself, you've got the opportunity. We've got people coming to this country every year as they immigrate, okay? Being able to take advantage of this opportunity that we have. And I was raised that this is the land of opportunity, the American dream. And the first home that my wife and I bought, we was able to, for that we designed it, and we built it, and we, then the second home, and the third home, and we've had 2 homes, so I mean I've achieved that American dream.